back to Excel, and now what we're going to do is have a look at some of the other tabs and ribbons. Right, okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the page layout. So within page layout, you've got access to lots of different things. You've got access to themes, you've got access to margins, orientation, and just the way that your page is going to be set up. Now, obviously with Excel, what you normally see is just a worksheet like we've got in front of us here. So actually the way that your page looks is pretty much how it is. This is how most people would work with it. Now you can, for printing purposes, set margins and orientation for your page layout. You can obviously look at the size of the page as well. So, you know, you can look at whether it's a letter or A4. And again, this really does help when you're printing things out. And within your page layout, you can also set a specific print area. So I'll get some information up in a second and I'll show you how you can do that. Again, like Microsoft Word, you do have access to put page breaks in as well. So if you've got a specific part or a specific area that you want to print and you're trying to omit some of the other data, then obviously you can set that print area as well. And again, I can show you how to do that. And you can also instigate some page breaks to help you with that too. You can also add backgrounds as well. So this is where you can add a background image into Microsoft Excel. Again, I don't know many people do this. I mean, some organizations may do it because they want to have their brand at the back. But just so you know how to do it, I'm just going to show you now. So I'm just going to search from a file. So I'm just going to browse by file. And that should give me a pop-up in just a second. And what I'm then going to do is I'm just going to search for my logo out of my OneDrive area. So I'm going to search for my logo there. And I'm just going to I'll just pick out this one for now. Click on insert. So as you can see, it covers the whole of the background with my logo. So if you decide that you no longer want that there, that background is quite busy, as you can see. You just basically just hit the delete background option and that removes that for you. Now, unfortunately, you can't change the transparency or anything like that. Again, you've got to remember that Excel is a product for manipulating and storing data. So actually, from your perspective, it's very unlikely you're ever going to instigate a background image into your document. So you've also got the option to print titles, and this allows you to choose rows and columns you'd like to repeat on each printed page, so that you kind of have a header and a footer on each of those pages. So what you can do is you can actually click on the button and it will then say to you what would you like to print and how would you like to print it. So on this section here, you've got the header and footer here. So the idea is if you put page 1, for example, it will put a page number in for you. You can customize it. You can customize the footer as well. So again, what will happen is that you won't actually see this on the screen, but what you will see is that when it's printed, you'll see that the header and footer will actually just print out on those printed documents. There are some elements on view where you will be able to see what they look like, and I'll talk you through those. So what I'll do is I'm just going to customize a page and I'm going to obviously have the page number in the middle, and on the left section of the page, I'm just going to put this is a test. Okay, and we'll see what that looks like a little bit later on. Okay, so click on OK. And that will save that for you. So that will add a header in at the top of the page for us. Now with this, you've also got the scaling options. You can scale what things are going to look like to fit to a page. Again, if you've got a large portion of data, you might want to actually just scale it all down so actually it all fits onto a page. You've also got grid lines and headings view as well. Now, I quite like not having grid lines on. I quite like grid lines on when I'm working within Excel. But once I got to a point like this, like we got to earlier, what I prefer to see is a page which doesn't have any grid lines. So I tend to turn the grid lines off because I think once you've actually got your page or your worksheet how you want it, actually the grid lines can make it look quite busy. So you can actually turn those off. You can also, if you wanted to, you could actually opt in to print the grid lines as well. So if it makes it easier for people to look across at data, then actually it's sometimes quite good to be able to kind of just look at that data and you can scroll across quite easily with the grid lines on. Likewise, you can also get rid of the headings as well. So the headings are like the letters that you've got going across the top here and the numbers down the sides as well. So if I was just to unclick the view option, you can see that they now completely disappear. Now this is quite a good option to have because actually if you're sharing a document and you don't necessarily want those people or those individuals to be able to change your document or insert information, there's a really good way of kind of deterring them from doing it because it looks slightly different. So a lot of people won't realize that those headings aren't there because actually they've not got access to them. Okay, I'll just pop those back on, and I'm just going to pop the grid lines back on as well. Now, obviously, the last few bits you got here are more kind of arranging images. So you've got your bring forward, send backwards, which is what we looked at a little bit earlier. They're just repeated on the page layout option. Okay, so we're going to skip formulas because formulas is something that we're going to look at in a bit more detail over the next session. But here, this is where you've got some functionality. So I'm just going to skim through these functionalities for you. There's a couple of things on here which are quite good to know. But some of the detail I'll go through in the next session. So these bits here, I'm just going to not worry about those for now. We're going to cover those in more depth in the next session. But there are a few things over this side which are quite good to know about. So one of the things that I found really useful when I was learning Excel was having access to show formulas. Now, what show formulas enables you to do is it enables you to look at all the formulas that are associated within your document. So if I just show you an example, now if I just insert a line here, so I'm just going to click on 17 and I'm going to right click and insert, and I'm just going to move my graph down a little bit there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a total column here. So when I'm adding my total column, I'm just going to add up everything that's in this area here. So I'm going to do equal sum, because that's the formula. Don't worry about this. We'll go through this in more detail a bit later. I'm just going to highlight the area that I want to be added up. I'm going to click on OK, and that's going to add up that total for me. So I've now got the total of 36.53 for my dinner party. Now, what you can do, if I click on the Show Formulas button, because I've now added a formula into there, it will now show me what that formula looks like. So it means that if I'm looking at potential errors within a spreadsheet, or if I'm looking for something that doesn't look quite right, by putting show formulas on, it allows you to expand the cells without having to change everything. And then you can actually look at what the formula is like. Likewise, if you're quite new to it and you're looking at repeating formulas, then actually that's a really nice way of doing it as well. It's a nice way of being able to look at the formulas and checking the formulas okay. Once you're happy with it, you can actually then click show formulas again and everything reverts back to normal. So that's a really nice thing to be aware of, that one. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about for now with regards to formulas. Like I said, we're going to come back to that a little bit later and we're going to talk about it in more depth, and I'm going to talk you through some different formulas in more detail. The next one along we have is data. Now, pretty much most of the stuff in the data column kind of links back into a focus on intermediate and advanced level stuff. So actually, we're just going to not worry too much about data at this point. And then some point in the future, we'll come across that. You will notice some similarities from the home page, though. So you've got things like your sort and filter options there, which also sit on your home page over here. Okay, so you can access them there on your data tab. I think, to be honest, that's pretty much it for now. Okay, we're just going to pop onto review. Now, within your review tab, you've got your spelling, which is quite important. You've got your thesaurus. You've got an element called workbook statistics, and that's where you can kind of look at cells, formulas, charts, and tables, and they count things, so you don't have to. So Excel does all that stuff naturally for you, gives you a bit of a checkup. You've got accessibility options as well. So you've got things like making sure that things can be read through and making sure that things can be merged or unmerged, just to make it so that if people need to have that inclusivity, that you've got the accessibility options there. You've also got things like Smart Lookup and Translate as well. So Smart Lookup gives you the ability to click on a particular word. So let's look at, I don't know, let's select lettuce, for example, and then do Smart Lookup. And what it do, it will search lettuce and it'll go online and it'll find different things that are associated to lettuce to help you kind of with your research or with your data. You can also translate your Excel spreadsheets into different languages. So you click on the translate option, it'll give you your current language, and then it would ask you what you would like to change it into. I've actually just still selected letters, so let's try that again. So let's hit on translate, and then it should hopefully translate the whole document. Yeah, so we can select it from English, and we want to maybe change it to, I don't know, let's change it to French again. Let's have a look. As you can see, there's a range of different languages on here. So let's put French in there. And there we are. So you can select text from the document. So let's say we're going to look at all of this text here. And as you can see now, it's just translating that information for us. Okay, so there's that option there. Right, and again, what we've got here is the new comment and show comments option. And if you remember a little bit earlier, we looked at the insert tab, and on the insert tab, we had the comment section there. So that's a repeated element under review. And then over here, we've got some elements which are probably more about intermediate levels. And this is how you're going to lock a worksheet down and protect it so people can't make editable changes to it. Right, we're just going to move on to the view option. So now view is a nice place for us to look and see how our document is going to look when we're looking to print it out. So again, this is the normal view. So this is what it normally looks like. You can have the page break view as well. So this means that you can move margins around and you can get everything to fit within one page. So as you can see at the minute, we're sampling over 2 pages here. But what I can do is I can use the blue lines to drag things in and out, just so that we've got some flexibility on those pages as well. So I've just now amalgamated that all onto one page. So hopefully it will just all print on one page. And then up here, you've then got your page layout options. So do you remember before we were looking at page layout and we're adding headers and footers? So what we can do now is we can add our header and we can look at where our header information is. So you've got your header up here. You can add different things to it. So it means that as and when you're printing, your header will automatically be there. It will always be there, but this gives you the option to view those particular things as well. Interestingly, we did add a header in a little bit earlier, but I do believe that was on sheet 2, if I remember rightly. So if I go into view, and if I go into my page layout, yep, so a little bit earlier we added, this is a test, and then we wanted the page to appear, the page number. So you can see when we were in our page layout options and we clicked on print titles, what that's done is actually amalgamated that to that particular sheet. So I guess the key learning out of this is that if you're going to have a header or footer, you need to make sure that your print titles is associated. You're going to have to update that on every worksheet that you have within your spreadsheet. So in this instance, on sheet 1, we don't have any header or title because it didn't add anything to that sheet. Right, I'm just going to put it back to normal because I don't particularly like that view. When I'm working in Excel, I prefer it to be in the normal view because it gives you the full scope of the screen. You've got a couple of different things here. You've got, again, you can turn your grid lines on and off and your headings and your formula bar. So this element here is called the formula bar. So I can toggle that on and off. And again, headings and again, grid lines. And then the navigation bar pops up on the right-hand side here. And this allows you to kind of navigate between the sheets. It enables you to navigate between the different aspects of your spreadsheet or your worksheet. So if I click on like that, for example, it's taking me to this area up here, which is where cupcakes and sheet 2 links are. If I click on picture 2, it's taking me to the picture. And again, it means if you're working quite heavily and you've got a lot of things that you're working on, you can obviously flick between those parts quite easily rather than having to click on them and kind of getting it wrong in that sense. So again, the navigation element kind of allows you to do that as well. Obviously, we don't have anything in sheet 2, so nothing is going to pop up in sheet 2. Right, so one of the last elements I want to talk you through is just over here, and this is the freeze pane section. So I get asked quite many times in training, like how to freeze a pane. So I'm just going to open a separate spreadsheet just to show you how to do that. So let me just find a spreadsheet with a bit more information on it. So I'm just going to go back to my recents because I'm sure I've got another one here called reports. Yep, there it is. So I'm just going to open up the report section. And as you can see on this one, there's a little bit more information. There's a little bit more detail. Now with freeze panes, you've got a couple of different options. You can actually freeze the top row. So that will freeze like where it says first name, surname, region, and then all the months up to total sales. So if I click on that one, You can see now that that has frozen that top row for me. If I wanted to unfreeze that, you just click on unfreeze panes under view. If I wanted to freeze the first column, which is the column going down, and then I scroll across, you can see that the names are all there. They haven't changed at all, but the data moves across as well. Now, if you wanted to freeze both the row and the column in Excel, then what you can do is you can unfreeze those panes because unfreeze what you've already done. And the clear thing really here is making sure that your data that you want to freeze is on the top left-hand corner. Okay, so for example here, I'm looking at freezing all of this section here, but I'm also looking at freezing this section here as well. Okay, so if I click on that figure there between January region and South, and I want to freeze the pane around here, I'm going to click on freeze panes, and I'm going to then click on freeze panes there. And you can see that the little snowflake icon tells you exactly where that's going to freeze as well. So I'm going to click that option there, and you can now see there's a thick line as to where the row and the column has been frozen. So if I scroll down, you can see that that data at the top is now the same. And if I now scroll across as well, you can see that I can keep hold of the names and the regions whilst I'm scrolling across. So you can scroll up and down quite nicely, and you're not losing any of that data. And again, to unfreeze that, you just click on freeze panes and unfreeze that data. So that's a top thing that I get asked quite a lot when I'm delivering training. What I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to talk you through formulas, and we're going to show you how to set up formulas and actually create formulas. So this could be a little bit labor intensive, but I'll try and keep it as succinct and short as I possibly can.